I used to laugh with my daughter about everything. But there was one thing she never joked about, her house. She always kept me away from it, like it was some fragile secret she couldn't risk breaking. I'm Evelyn Marston, and I'm 71 years old. For years, my daughter, Kala, found ways to keep that door closed to me. She always spoke gently, but her words were like polished stones, smooth on the surface, hiding edges. Soon, Mom. I'll invite you soon. It's a bit chaotic right now. Today's not a good day. I've been running on fumes. I'd love to have you over, but the house is just not ready yet. She always wore a smile when she said these things, but it never quite reached her eyes. And that smile, it began to feel like a curtain she was drawing between us. At first, I believed her. I wanted to. Children grow up, they build their own lives, and they draw lines in the sand, lines even mothers must learn not to cross. I told myself, this is normal. Let it go. Don't be that mother who pushes too hard. But each time I showed up with a fresh pie or warm casserole and she insisted we take a walk instead of going inside, a small part of me folded itself away, quieter and quieter. I never pried. I'd learned, after decades of parenting, that pushing a grown child only teaches them to push back harder. So I tucked my questions in the corners of my heart, like folded love letters never sent. I waited. I waited for her to let me in, not just into her home, but into the life she was keeping behind that locked door. But as the months turned into years, her reasons began to shift. They weren't warm anymore. They were clinical, practiced, like lines rehearsed for a role she didn't want to play. Mom, don't stop by today. Please. Mom, I really can't have guests right now. It's complicated. That word. Complicated. It planted itself in my chest and stayed there. Kala had never been vague. She was the kind of child who told on herself before anyone asked. This new way of speaking, tight-lipped, carefully measured, it didn't sound like my daughter. Still, I gave her space. Children change when adulthood weighs on them. Life makes them quiet. Distant. But distance? It doesn't just sit still. It grows. It roots. And if no one tends to it, it becomes a wall you can't climb back over. By the time Kala left town that weekend, the silence between us had hardened into something I couldn't pretend away anymore. It was the first whisper of a truth I never imagined. A truth waiting quietly behind a door I'd never been allowed to open. The unraveling started with the little things. No more lunch invites. Calls that used to be picked up on the first ring suddenly went unanswered. Then she stopped calling back at all. One afternoon, I tried again. Sweetheart, I made your favorite soup. I'll just drop it on the porch. Her voice came thin and frayed. Mom, I'm not home. Please, just not today, okay? But you said you were staying in town this weekend. She paused. I meant to say next weekend. I'm just tired. It wasn't the kind of tired you get from a long day. It was the kind of tired that lives behind your bones. I didn't push. But that day, something inside me stopped waiting. A few days later, I drove through her neighborhood, not to intrude, but to feel near her. What I found instead was a tiny crack in the story she'd been telling me. And once a crack forms, the truth always finds a way to seep through. I drove past her street with no real plan, just a hope that maybe seeing her house would settle the worry clawing at my chest. The sky was overcast, the kind of gray that makes everything feel a little heavier. As I turned the corner, I spotted Mrs. Glenda Ellery out front, trimming her hedge with the careful attention of someone who had more time than company. She waved, and I stopped the car. Evelyn, she called with a warm grin. Haven't seen you around Kala's place in ages. I stepped out, plastering on the kind of smile you wear when you're hoping it'll become real. Oh, she's just been so busy lately. You know how it is. Her own smile faltered, just slightly. Busy? That's odd. She hasn't been coming and going much. Her car's barely moved in weeks. My hand tightened around my purse strap. She told me she'd been traveling for work. Mrs. Ellery tilted her head gently, like she was deciding whether to say more. Maybe she has. Maybe I missed it. But usually I'd notice. This neighborhood doesn't miss much. Her words followed me home like shadows on my heels. I couldn't shake them. Calla's stories didn't match the world around her anymore. Something was off. The next morning, I opened the mail with a cup of lukewarm coffee, not expecting anything but catalogs and bills. But there it was, an envelope thicker than the others, stamped with the county seal. At first, I thought it was junk mail. I almost tossed it aside until I saw my name, bold, unmissable. Notice of property tax adjustment. Owners, Calla Marston and Evelyn Marston. My name. On a house I had never stepped foot inside. The ceramic mug slipped from my hand and cracked on the floor. I didn't even react. My fingers were already trembling as I dialed her number. She picked up on the second ring, breathless. Mom, I'm in the middle of something. Can I call you back? No, I said softly. A letter came today. My name is on your deed. Why? Silence. Long, aching silence. Calla, I pressed. What is this? I can explain, she whispered, and her voice wasn't just nervous, it was scared. You signed something years ago. You must have forgotten. I don't forget signing legal documents, I said flatly. There was a sound, like pacing. Then a shaky, please, Mom. It's just paperwork. It's not a big deal. You listed me as co-owner. That's not paperwork. That's a decision. Another long pause. Then her voice cracked. Are you at home? Just wait for me, okay? Don't go anywhere. I'm not the one who's been hiding, I said quietly. Please, she begged. Her voice dropped into something small, something cornered. Don't tell anyone about the letter. Don't call the county. Please. Why not? She didn't answer. I heard the rustling of keys, the click of a car door. I'm coming over, she said. Just don't panic. I didn't say a word. Just pressed the letter against my chest, the ink warm under my hand, my breath caught in the quiet of the room. Her fear wasn't theatrical, it was real. Tangible. And that's when I realized. This wasn't just her secret. She had tied me to it without asking. And something about that made the air in my home feel thinner, like truth had taken all the oxygen with it. She arrived less than an hour later, didn't even bother taking off her coat. Her eyes darted around like she expected someone to be standing in my living room waiting to arrest her. I need to leave town, she said. A work emergency. Just a few days. You don't travel for work, I replied, watching her carefully. I do now. Too quick. And while I'm gone, please, don't go near the house. Please, Mom. She tried to sound stern, but her voice was cracking at the seams. Calla, I said, about the deed. I'll fix it. I swear, she snapped, then instantly softened. Please, please just trust me. I'm trying to hold everything together. She kissed my cheek the way she used to when she was 15 and in trouble. Quick. Guilty. Then she disappeared down the steps. I watched her taillights vanish into the gray distance, and the chill she left behind sat in my bones like winter. The very next morning, another envelope arrived. Thicker. Harsher. Legal. And with it came the truth, whatever Calla had involved me in, it was bigger than either of us could carry alone. The envelope came the next morning. A large, official one. The kind that never brings good news. Responsible party, Evelyn Marston, action required. I didn't even open it right away. Just stood in the hallway holding it, my hands clammy. My name again. In bold. On something I didn't recognize, didn't agree to. The walls of my own home began to feel unfamiliar. I had this aching sense that my life was being lived behind my back. I stepped outside, hoping the cold air might clear my thoughts. And there, across her flower beds, was Mrs. Ellery again, watering her herbs like nothing was crumbling anywhere. She left town again, didn't she? She asked gently, as if she already knew the answer. I nodded. A work emergency, I said, though the words tasted false as they left my mouth. Mrs. Ellery hesitated, her hand tightening slightly around the watering can. There were people at her house last night. I froze. What do you mean? They weren't family, she said, her voice careful now. 2 different cars. They came twice. Didn't knock. Just let themselves in. Walked out 20 minutes later like it was normal. I felt the world tilt slightly under my feet. What kind of people? She shook her head. I don't know. They looked official. But not the kind who wear uniforms. My stomach twisted. I thanked her quietly and went back inside, clutching the envelope like it might bite me if I let go. That night, sleep didn't come. Calla wasn't just hiding something. She was actively keeping me out, while strangers walked through a house that bore my name on the deed. Something had slipped. I could feel it. The stories she had carefully stacked were leaning now, and I was standing underneath them. By the second night, I couldn't bear the silence anymore. I drove to her house. I didn't make a decision. I didn't rehearse a speech. I just found myself there. The sky was dark, but her porch light was on, like it had been waiting for me. My hands shook as I reached for my key. The same spare she gave me when she first moved in. She never asked for it back. The key slid in easily. The lock turned with barely a sound. Inside, the air was thick. Warm. Too warm. And there was a faint sweetness, cloying, unnatural. Not perfume. Not food. Something stranger. And then I saw them. 3 elderly people, tucked into makeshift beds across the living room. Not medical beds. Just thin mattresses, pushed against walls. Blankets that didn't quite cover enough. One woman stirred, her voice barely a whisper. Nurse, is it time for meds? My mouth dried. I'm just visiting, I said quietly. An aide slept sitting up in a dining chair. Her uniform was rumpled and stained, and when the front door creaked behind me, she jolted awake. Her eyes widened. Oh God, ma'am, you can't be here. This is my daughter's house, I said calmly, though my heart was pounding. Apparently, it's mine too. The color drained from her face. She said you didn't live nearby. I stepped into the room slowly, my eyes scanning the kitchen. Papers were taped to the cabinets, color-coded medication charts, scribbled dosage logs, shift rotations written in urgent, frantic handwriting. You're running elder care out of this house, I said, nearly breathless. The aide swallowed. They have nowhere else to go. She pays me cash. I just follow instructions. And whose instructions are these? I asked, pointing at a frame hanging crookedly on the wall. A license. A certification. Licensed care supervisor, Evelyn Marston. I stepped forward, my knees suddenly weak. My name. My forged signature. I reached out, touching the glass with trembling fingers. She used me, I whispered. I didn't know she faked anything, the aide said, her voice small. I swear, I just needed the job. Behind us, one of the elderly men coughed, ragged and wet. The sound sliced the silence clean in half. Calla hadn't built a life here. She'd built a desperate shelter. And she'd built it on top of my name, my trust. Everything she was holding up had started to buckle. And I hadn't even known I was the one propping it up. The aide gently helped the man sip water, then looked at me with quiet shame. "They'll rest for a while," she murmured. "If you want to look around, you can." I nodded, slowly. My feet felt heavy, like every step would uncover something I wasn't ready to know. But I walked down the hallway anyway. The first door I opened was her old office. What I found inside wasn't just chaos, it was desperation, written in ink, scattered in bills, and bleeding from every corner of her secret life. The doorknob to her office was cool in my hand. I turned it slowly, almost hoping it might be locked. That maybe I wasn't meant to see what waited on the other side. But the door creaked open with no resistance. And there it was. Papers everywhere. The desk was buried under them, envelopes, folders, spiral notebooks, bills with angry red stamps. It looked like a blizzard of life had come through, and no one had cleaned up after the storm. I stepped carefully inside, the floor soft with paper underfoot. My eyes landed on an envelope. Final notice. Another, urgent payment required. A third, termination of home health contract. Calla had been drowning. There was no rhythm to the mess, just panic. Survival. Desperation poured out in every corner. I picked up her notebook, its cover bent, the pages inside filled with jagged, uneven writing. Her thoughts, unfiltered. 2 shifts at the care facility. 1 overnight. If I take 3 private clients, that covers the mortgage. Mom can never find out. She'll take on my stress. I can't do that to her. My throat caught. The paper fluttered in my hands as I flipped through more pages. Need groceries for clients. Blood pressure meds for Jane doubled again. Bruno's cough syrup, $1.28. The van needs gas. Again. I'll figure it out. I always do. And then I saw them, printed screenshots of text messages, cut and taped to notebook pages. Some highlighted. Some circled in pen. From her supervisor, "You're trading too many shifts, Calla. If you collapse again, I have to report it." From Calla, "Please don't cut my hours. I'll be okay. I swear. I need this. Just let me keep working." I found a manila folder labeled taxes. Inside, a spreadsheet. I scanned it and felt my knees buckle. Credit card debt. Medical bills. Mortgage payments. Late fees. Overdrafts. And then, at the very bottom, the sentence that hit like a punch to the chest. If Mom is listed as co-owner, the loan extension goes through. Just temporary. She'll never have to know. I sat on the edge of her desk, my fingers trembling around the edges of the page. My breath shallow. She hadn't meant to betray me. She had tried to shield me. To carry something alone for far too long. But trust was something we shared. And she had broken it. Not cruelly. Not with malice. But because she thought love meant protection, even if it meant lying. I took a shaky breath and stood. My hands still full of the paper trail of her collapse. And I didn't go home. I walked straight to the house next door. Miss Aldridge, who had lived there longer than any of us, opened the door before I even knocked twice. Her soft cardigan was the color of faded rose petals, and her eyes, always kind, studied me with concern. "Evelyn," she said quietly. "You look pale, dear. Come in." I didn't sit. I couldn't. "Miss Aldridge. I need to know what's been going on with Calla. Please." Her face softened, in the way only women who've lived long enough to understand heartbreak without explanation do. "Sit down, love," she said gently. "You've earned the truth." I did. The chair creaked under me, but I barely noticed. "She's been burning both ends, Evelyn," she said, folding her hands in her lap. "I've watched her leave before the sun was up and come back long after midnight. 2 jobs. Sometimes 3. She looked like she could barely stand. "She never told me," I whispered. "She didn't want you worried," Miss Aldrich replied. "She told people you were too sick to visit. Said you couldn't be around stress." My heart clenched. She lied to protect me. "She lied," the older woman said softly. "But not to hurt you." Then her voice dropped lower. "A county inspector came by last week. Someone reported unlicensed medical activity in the house." Rowan was terrified. She begged him for more time. Promised she was fixing the paperwork. I gripped the arms of the chair. "She told him she had a supervisor?" Miss Aldrich nodded. "Yes. A woman named Marston." "My name." The room fell still. She reached over and gently touched my hand. "Oh, Evelyn." My world tilted. I steadied myself against the back of the chair. Calla hadn't just made a mistake. She'd stepped onto a legal fault line. And she'd dragged me with her, unknowingly, unwillingly, but undeniably. "She's not evil," Miss Aldrich added. "She's just scared. And so tired. And trying so hard not to fall apart in front of you." I closed my eyes for a moment. Let the ache settle. Calla hadn't trusted me with her struggle. She had trusted my name to carry it instead. And now, the inspector was coming back. The next time Calla walked through her front door, I was already sitting at her kitchen table. The forged certificate lay in front of me. And she knew, without a word spoken, that I had seen everything. I sat at her kitchen table, the morning sun spilling through the blinds like it didn't know any better. The forged certification was in front of me, my name, my fake signature, the paper still warm from the rage I'd tried to swallow. I didn't pace. I didn't cry. I just sat there, waiting. The front door opened. 2 hesitant steps. Then silence. Calla's voice cracked on the first word. "Mom?" She froze when she saw me. Her eyes darted to the table, to the paper, then back to my face. I didn't move. "What are you doing here?" she whispered, breathless. Like the truth had sucked the air straight out of her lungs. I stood slowly, letting the chair scrape the tile. "I opened the door," I said. "The one you told me never to touch." She went pale. Her shoulders dropped. No, you weren't supposed to." "Calla," I said, softly but firmly, "I saw everything." Her knees gave slightly. She caught herself on the counter, both hands covering her face. "Oh God." Her voice broke. "I was going to fix it. I swear I was." I held up the frame, the one that said I was a licensed care supervisor. "By forging my name?" I asked, voice shaking. "By putting the weight of this on a 71-year-old woman who had no idea she was carrying it?" "I didn't have a choice," she cried. "I was trying to keep the house. Keep my job. Keep those people safe. It all kept slipping through my fingers. You should have told me." "I didn't want you to carry my failure," she snapped back, and the shame in her voice nearly brought me to my knees. "I thought if I just held on a little longer." "You weren't holding on," I said gently. "You were falling." She wept then. Not the quiet tears of guilt, but the frantic sobbing of someone who finally let go of the rope she'd been clinging to for far too long. "Please," she gasped, "please don't call the police. If they shut this down, those people have nowhere to go. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. I didn't call the police, I interrupted. She looked up, startled. Her cheeks were wet, her lip trembling. But I did call a lawyer. Her whole body stilled. A lawyer? We're in deep, I said. You forged my name. Operated an unlicensed facility. This could have destroyed both of us. Her eyes filled again. Oh my God. We may have broken rules, I said slowly, deliberately. But we're not monsters. We get help. We fix this. Together. She collapsed into a chair across from me, her hands shaking. Can we fix it, though? She whispered. Is it even possible? And that was the moment I saw it. Her fear wasn't for herself. It was for me. For the people in those makeshift beds. For the house. For everything she thought she had ruined. I reached across the table, gently took her hand. We're going to try. The next morning, the inspector arrived. His name was Mr. Harris, tall, calm, the kind of man who could look at a room and know more than anyone had said out loud. Calla stood beside me. Her eyes were swollen, but her voice didn't shake when she said, I understand. He walked through the house with quiet precision, examining charts, meds, sheets, air vents. The aide followed nervously, answering each question with a mix of fear and honesty. When he finished, he turned to Calla. These residents will be relocated to licensed facilities today. Transport has already been arranged. She nodded. Thank you for not calling the police. You're being cited, he said plainly. For unlicensed elder care, improper supervision. You won't face criminal charges. Given that you've brought in legal counsel, corrected the documents, and cooperated, this will be handled as a regulatory violation. There will be fines. And mandatory training if you want to work in elder care again. Calla's shoulders dropped. Not in defeat, but in relief. In surrender. I accept that, she said. I should have done this the right way. When the last of the residents had been carefully transported, she walked into the now empty living room and stood there like she was trying to hear something that wasn't there anymore. I'm sorry, Mom, she whispered. For using your name. For hiding everything. For being too proud to ask for help. I touched her arm. We're cleaning up the mess. That's what matters now. This isn't the end. She took a shaky breath. One that felt just a little freer. And for the first time in years, she stood without shaking. 3 months later, the phone rang. Her voice didn't tremble. No secrets. Just a simple question, Mom, can you come over tomorrow? Through the front door this time? 3 months passed. Then one evening, just as the light was fading from the sky and I was folding laundry in quiet peace, the phone rang. Her voice, clear, steady, came through the line like a song I hadn't heard in years. Mom, she said. Can you come by tomorrow? A pause. Through the front door this time. The real way. My throat tightened. I didn't cry. Not then. But something in my chest swelled with the kind of hope that only comes after you've watched everything fall apart. I arrived just after noon. Before I could even knock, the door swung open. And there she was. Her hair was tied back. Her scrubs were neat and clean. Her eyes, once clouded by exhaustion and panic, were clear again. I just got off my shift, she said, smiling, truly smiling. The licensed facility offered me full-time. I finished all the training. Passed everything. Her voice carried pride now, not just in what she had done, but in how she had done it. Inside, the house felt new. No mattresses. No charts taped to the walls. No scent of fear clinging to the air. Just light. Warmth. Calla led me into the kitchen and ran her hand along the freshly painted wall. I repainted, she said softly. And I cleaned out the office. No more piles. No more secrets. I touched the edge of the counter. The same one where I had once seen invoices and unpaid bills stacked like bones. It looks peaceful. She nodded. It feels peaceful. Then her voice caught, just slightly. Thank you for not walking away. For calling a lawyer instead of the police. For seeing me even when I couldn't see myself. I stepped closer, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Everyone breaks when they're carrying too much. You just needed someone to carry it with you. She sank into the chair like her bones had finally forgiven her. The light from the window hit her eyes, and I saw it again, that spark. That fight. The version of her I'd raised to be strong, but never expected to be so quietly brave. I thought you'd be furious forever, she said. I was hurt, I admitted. But I don't want us to live in anger. I want us to rebuild in honesty. She nodded, slowly. So do I. We sat in the quiet. Not the heavy, uncertain quiet from before, but a warm, forgiving kind. The kind that fills a room without saying a word. Later, Calla led me into the living room and pulled the curtains wide. Sunlight spilled across the floor like blessing. This house is mine again, she said with a soft breath. And today, it's yours too. I stepped forward, fully, with no fear. No lies. No shadows in the corners. For the first time, I felt welcome. And before I left, she hugged me, tightly, desperately, like someone who finally understood that love isn't just what we say, but what we survive together. She pulled back and asked, Mom, if someone heard our story, what would you want them to take from it? I smiled at her. At everything she had become. At everything we had overcome. That compassion, I said, can change a life. If this story touched something in you, share it with someone who needs to know they're not alone. And tell me, have you ever uncovered a secret that forced you to choose compassion over anger?